17. That's the number of human beings whose lives ended at the hands of one man. A man who looked completely ordinary. A man who had a job, who had neighbors, who went to church. A man who kept the bodies. Jeffrey Lionel Dahmer was born on May 21, 1960, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. By all early accounts, he was a normal child. His mother described him as a happy baby. His teachers said he was bright. His neighbors saw nothing unusual. But somewhere in his early teens, something changed. He became withdrawn, quiet in a way that made people uncomfortable. He began collecting roadkill, dissolving animal bones in acid in the backyard. His father thought it was just curiosity, a morbid phase. It was not a phase. By the time Jeffrey Dahmer graduated high school in 1978, he had already committed his first murder. His victim was Stephen Hicks, a hitchhiker he had invited home. After killing him, Dahmer crushed the bones with a sledgehammer and scattered them in the woods behind his house. He was 18 years old, and he would not be caught for another 13 years. After his first murder, Dahmer enlisted in the Army. He was discharged early for alcohol abuse. He drifted, stayed with his grandmother in Wisconsin, got a job at a chocolate factory, and then the killings resumed. Between 1987 and 1991 alone, Dahmer murdered 12 more men. His method was always similar. He would find young men, mostly black, mostly gay, at bars, bus stops, malls. He would offer them money, a drink, a chance to be photographed, and he would bring them to his apartment at 924 North 25th Street, Milwaukee, apartment 213. What happened inside that apartment is almost impossible to describe without pausing to remind yourself, this was real. This happened. He drugged his victims. He strangled them. He took photographs of the bodies at every stage. He kept skulls. He kept hands. He kept organs stored in his refrigerator. And yes, he consumed parts of his victims. Because Jeffrey Dahmer believed that if he ate them, they would become a part of him. They could never leave. After his first murder, Dahmer enlisted in the Army. He was discharged early for alcohol abuse. He drifted, stayed with his grandmother in Wisconsin, got a job at a chocolate factory, and then the killings resumed. Between 1987 and 1991 alone, Dahmer murdered 12 more men. His method was always similar. He would find young men, mostly black, mostly gay, at bars, bus stops, malls. He would offer them money, a drink, a chance to be photographed, and he would bring them to his apartment at 924 North 25th Street, Milwaukee, apartment 213. What happened inside that apartment is almost impossible to describe without pausing to remind yourself, this was real. This happened. He drugged his victims. He strangled them. He took photographs of the bodies at every stage. He kept skulls. He kept hands. He kept organs stored in his refrigerator. And yes, he consumed parts of his victims. Because Jeffrey Dahmer believed that if he ate them, they would become a part of him. They could never leave. Here is the part of this story that should make you angry. Jeffrey Dahmer was nearly caught, multiple times. In 1988, he was arrested for assaulting a 13-year-old boy. He served only 10 months. He was released early for good behavior. The judge called him a troubled young man who needed help, not prison. He killed again within a week of his release. But the most chilling failure came in May 1991. Neighbors called the police about a young boy, dazed, bleeding, wandering the street outside Dahmer's apartment. That boy was Konarak Synthesomophone. He was 14 years old. He was one of Dahmer's victims, and he was still alive. 2 Milwaukee police officers responded. Dahmer told them the boy was his 19-year-old boyfriend, that he had been drinking. The officers laughed, joked about it on their radio, and they handed Konarak back to Jeffrey Dahmer. Konarak was dead within the hour. On the night of July 22, 1991, Tracy Edwards escaped. He had been handcuffed by Dahmer. He had been told what was going to happen to him, and somehow he fought back. He punched Dahmer in the face, and he ran. He flagged down a police cruiser on the street, a handcuff still dangling from his wrist. Officers Robert Routh and Rolf Mueller followed him back to apartment 213. What they found inside was beyond any training, beyond any crime scene manual. Photographs of dismembered bodies pinned to the walls, a human head in the refrigerator, 3 more heads in the freezer, a barrel of acid containing the remains of 3 torsos, human skulls, preserved hands, a human heart wrapped in plastic in the freezer, labeled, organized, kept. Jeffrey Dahmer was arrested without resistance. He told police, "For what I did, I should be dead." In January 1992, Jeffrey Dahmer stood trial for 15 counts of murder. His defense argued insanity. His attorneys presented expert witnesses who testified that Dahmer suffered from a severe personality disorder, that he could not stop himself. The prosecution had a different argument. They pointed out that Dahmer planned each murder carefully, that he chose his victims deliberately, that he disposed of evidence methodically over 13 years. That is not a man without control. That is a man who chose. The jury agreed. On February 15, 1992, Jeffrey Dahmer was found sane, guilty on all 15 counts. He was sentenced to 15 consecutive life terms in prison, 957 years in total. Jeffrey Dahmer never made it through more than 2 years of his sentence. On November 28, 1994, Dahmer was beaten to death by fellow inmate Christopher Scarver at the Columbia Correctional Institution in Portage, Wisconsin. Scarver later said that God had told him to do it. 2 other inmates were also attacked that morning. Dahmer died on the way to the hospital. He was 34 years old. The Jeffrey Dahmer case changed America's understanding of what a serial killer looks like. He was not a shadowy monster lurking in an alley. He was a neighbor, a co-worker, someone who said good morning. His case exposed deep failures in the justice system, in law enforcement, and in how society ignored the most vulnerable victims, young men of color who were dismissed, disbelieved, and left unprotected. Some of those failures have been addressed, many have not. This has been Midnight Evidence. The truth never sleeps. If this episode stayed with you, share it, subscribe, and we will see you next time.